Well, time for my first guest now. And how has property been affected by COVID? Is now a good time to buy? What government grants are available? These are all the questions possible property buyers will ask. Lachlan Vidler helps clients invest in established property all around Australia with his company called Atlas Property Group. He joins me live now. Hey, Lachlan. Oh, we're just having some audio issues there. Can you hear me?
Yep,
There
can you
we
hear me?
go. Perfect. Yes, technology. Gotta love it. Hey, talk to us about property. How's COVID actually affected the market? Because we've heard a lot of noise around it. Is it as bad as what they were predicting?
I think it was really hard to tell at the start when COVID happened and people made predictions about what would occur and what would go on. And I think that the biggest impact was just that it was harder to transact. I mean, you look at Victoria with the lockdown, it was so much harder for them to see property, to transact on it, and that was what had an impact. But I think that as we're starting to come to the end of, or hopefully the end of what might be the impact of COVID, we're starting to see that it wasn't as bad as what people thought. And I believe in the last couple of days, the banks have even come out and started to say that their expectations for next year are growth possibly in the 5 to 10% range around the country.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, what trends are we seeing and what people are paying attention to? Because is the CBD dream over? Do people want to move out to regional areas? What are you seeing?
I think it's probably too early to tell. There's definitely been a bit of a shift. We are starting to see a lot more interest in the closer regional hubs. I mean, take for example Ballarat and Bendigo areas, and their relatively close proximity to the Melbourne CBD. There's a lot of interest because I think it's a lot easier now to look at commuting, or take for example Zoom. It's a lot easier now to do meetings and run businesses a lot more online. So it's something to watch. I'm not sold yet on what the direction will be overall, but I think it's an interesting possible direction of the property market.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us more about Atlas Property Group, how you actually help people purchase a home.
So Atlas Property Group, we're an exclusive buyer's agency, which means we represent the buyer's interests as opposed to a real estate agent who looks after the seller's interests. And we go out and we search and negotiate for property on a national scale for clients all around Australia to find them the best investment deals that we can.
Well, it's such a great idea, isn't it? Because there's so many details involved when it comes to buying a property, and it can be a really hard landscape to actually navigate. I mean, talk to us about some of the things I guess that you do to help, particularly people that are looking at purchasing their first investment property. How can you help them?
Well, for us, it's all about the client service and the client experience. Like you said, the first property can be such a unique and scary experience. So we work really hard to make them feel comfortable throughout the process. And we effectively do it all for you. So we spend a lot of time getting to know our clients, getting to understand their goals, where they've been before and where they want to go. And then once we have a really good understanding on that, that's when we can go out and we can find those properties that fit perfectly within their strategy. So that could be a growth property to, looking to get that 7 to 10% to build that strong foundation of the overall property portfolio. Or maybe you need a bit more of a cash flow asset if you're later in life and you want to be able to have that security of a constant flow of income. It really depends, and we spend a lot of time with our clients getting to know what is best for them and how we can best serve them.
And what happens with the market, Lachlan, in regards to as we track closer to Christmas? Is this a time where generally there's less homes on the market, or is this a good time to look? What should people be thinking about and taking into account as we move into this
Oh, I'm so
silly
glad you
season?
asked that. I'm so glad you asked because it's such a great question and a lot of people want to know. And from my experience and what we see is that Christmas is honestly one of the best times to buy property. You have properties that come on the market maybe 1, 2, or 3 months before Christmas. And as we edge closer, once you get into sort of end of November, December, it's a lot harder to purchase property from an everyday person's
Right.
perspective. But investors are out there and active, and you can get some amazing deals. Agents and property owners who are selling, they know that if their property sits over the Christmas period, they might not end up selling it until the end parts of January, but more likely February or early March. So if you've listed a property a couple months prior to Christmas, by the time you get through that Christmas period and then you sell in that February to March window, your property might have been on the market for 6 months plus. And that's a lot of time to
Yeah.
still be paying mortgages, things like that. So you can make some amazing deals, and that's what we're seeing in the market right now.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I love talking about property. Thanks for giving us your insight on the program this morning, Lachlan. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.